but
Nice.
yes, it's not easy.
Yeah.
They try their best.
Nice. Yeah, I'm talking a little bit to the people who are trying to organize Team Japan for the year.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, because you can be as long as you have one grandparent who is of that heritage or that nationality, you count. So my
Right.
grandma is Japanese, so I technically count for Team Japan, but I don't know if they're sending a team this year. But anyway,
I see.
yeah,
I talk a lot to the Team China guys because one of my teammates is on that,
yeah,
and it's basically like the same as I've seen in Portugal. They have some scrims sometimes,
yeah,
but it's not very hardcore like
yeah,
if you were going for like Team France or something.
yeah, for sure. The top eight
Mm.
teams are like just a
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
level. But anyway,
Different levels for sure.
so let's go ahead and get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Tactical Debrief. I'm, of course, Joshua Joshi Howard, and I have, for some reason, switched sides of the Discord call. But on my left is, I'm going to do my best, Gustavo Jose Branco Varandas de Sousa, the longest name of anyone I've
Yeah,
ever had
that is
on.
my full name. Yeah,
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 and I've been able to talk to this guy a fair amount. He's been popping in and out of all of the Discords that we've had. And Gustavo, you finally won a GT with Guard. It's taken you a
yeah.
while, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your history with Guard, because I know before this, I believe you were a Grey Knights player.
Uh, I was a Marines player
Oh, a Marines
actually.
player. Okay.
I played a lot of Black Templars
Mhm.
and some Votan as well.
Mhm.
Uh, so I got into guards because I watched the movie Dune, and and I was like, damn, a guard army just fit the whole Dune theme perfectly, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I just got into guard and I got more competitive with it
Yeah.
than I did with other factions before that.
Gotcha. I think it's funny talking on the Dune thing because when you say is like, oh, Guard fits perfectly, the first thing that came to mind when I was watching Dune is that would make a fantastic GSC army.
GSC, really?
Yeah,
Nah.
because you just pop out. You know the
Uh,
scene where they pop out of the sand? That's a cult ambush.
yeah, that is a cult ambush. That is a cult
Yeah.
ambush. I felt like Kasrkin, especially, they really fit the whole steel suit aesthetic, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my Leonta sculpted as a sandworm.
Yeah,
I
I've
just
seen
used
photos
that
of
for a
it.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I guess the big question is, what made you become more competitive with Guard than you were with Marines and Votan before that?
So I did go to tournaments with Marines and Votan, but with Marines, I feel like I didn't really vibe with the army because you don't have a lot of disposable units to just throw forward and suicide to do things. I'm not very careful with my units usually. So uh yeah, uh, I ended up I did the Dune Guard and then we had a team event which was an ITT here in the UK. And uh, I just put 3 Manticores in my list and shipped it. I did terribly. I remember uh, there was a round where I had to, where a guy had 60 pink horrors, and I told my team, not knowing what pink horrors do, yeah, I'll table this guy, no problem. And then I found out that every time I shoot a Manticore, it's just like there's more of them.
They're
I
coming out of
can't
the
kill them.
walls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going 2-3 in that one. And then I didn't want to let my team down for the next one. So I kept practicing guard
Gotcha.
until, yeah, I
Yeah.
got better with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like there are two things that I've seen really get people to be competitive when they were competitive before. The first one is the one that you mentioned, right? I don't want to be the weak link of the team, right? I don't want to let the team down.
Yeah.
And then
That tournament did motivate me a lot to
yeah.
get better.
And the other
Yeah.
one I've seen is, wait, that guy's shit. I'm better than him, and now you have to go actually like prove it. Like you actually have to get better at things. So I'm glad
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad we did get you in. How long did it take for you to start doing well with guard after that?
So I started playing guard maybe like a year ago.
Mm,
So after that, I mean, it was pretty quick. I started going 4-1 at GTs, but that 5-0 eluded me for a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you're towards
Maybe like
the
a couple months. Yeah.
yeah. It sounds like you're towards the end of a similar journey that I've been on. I've been getting a fair number of, good 3-2s or 4-1s, but just getting that like actual fifth game has been kind of tough.
Yeah, you also need some luck.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think that's also event. The more tournaments you go to, the higher chance you have of
yeah.
getting that luck, right?
Did you feel like you played particularly well at this event, or do you feel like you got a little bit more lucky in order to get the 5-0?
Mm. I think I played pretty well, but I definitely got lucky with matchups.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I also got lucky that Nassim didn't show up for the event. So he would probably taken the event if, you know,
Fair.
he shows up.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, this wasn't the super large events because I know Nassim normally
it's
only
not.
goes to like 100-person plus events, right?
Yeah, I think so too. But he's been to this one a couple of times.
Gotcha.
Because I think he's also based in London.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see
Yeah.
you, Nassim, and Thomas, talking about it's like, hey, make sure you check the WhatsApp later. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Gustavo, let's go ahead and start talking about the list a little bit of what you actually brought to this. And it looks like it's another Bridgehead win.
Yes. Very exciting. uh, it's basically a pretty standard bridgehead list.
Hmm.
Uh, let me pull it up because it was from Index before.
Yeah.
So it was just the 45 silence, which every bridgehead list has because you have to take 45 silence. They're too good.
Hmm.
Then it was two tank commanders before they got murdered. So they still had D6 plus 3 shots.
Hmm.
They're pretty good. It was 20 Kasrkin, two Tauroxes, 20 Catachan, 10 Aquilons, Guns Ghosts, Ursula, and I think I didn't miss anything. I think that's it.
You're indirect, right? Field Learner's Battery, a
Oh,
couple
yeah, yeah, yeah,
mortars.
of
Yeah.
course. A Full Ordnance Battery and some Mortars.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, this looks
that's
like
pretty
a
much it.
very tight list overall. This is very typical of what we were seeing with
Yeah.
Index. Um, let's go ahead and
It's the list I was playing for teams before. And I
yeah,
just shipped it for this
yeah.
small event.
I'm guessing this is like a first defender kind of list for you then.
Uh, it would depend. If I look at the enemy's team, I'm like, I can play anything. My team usually just puts me down the first defender, and
Hmm. Fair.
I take that game no problem. But Bridgehead does have some matchups you have to be quite careful
Yeah.
with, I think.
Yeah. Well, totally
Yeah.
fair. So as I look at this, I mean, there's not really anything that surprises me. I guess the one
No,
thing that kind of comes to mind is if you were to update this list for Codex, obviously the tank commanders are gone, but what other changes would you be looking to make?
I think I've been playtesting one. I've replaced tank commanders with just a Dorn commander,
Just the one
and
or two of
then
them?
just the one, because on UKTC, there's a lot of gaps that are smaller than 5 inch.
Hmm.
So the Dorn actually doesn't quite squeeze through, right? So I feel like I can only move one
Hmm.
reliably. Uh, and then 30 engineers, because I think they are completely broken.
Fair, yeah. I think it's interesting. I've been getting a lot of different opinions on that, but we can go ahead and come back to that towards the end because
Yeah,
this is a very, like I said, this is a very standard Index Bridgehead list
yeah,
from what I've
it's
seen.
completely standard
Yeah.
bridgehead list. Yeah,
So let's go ahead and start talking about the games then, Gustavo, because I mean, obviously you won it, but what was the path like? Was this a more difficult event for you? What was it about the event that just like lined up?
I think I only had two hard games.
Hmm.
The rest were pretty easy.
Yeah.
So the first game is like the most open UKTC map,
Sure.
and I paired into the Boogeyman list, which is three Vindicators, three Ballistas, Rubute, Calgar. That very original
Yep.
Ultramarines list. Yeah. Uh, so, oh, he also had a Repulsor,
Oh,
which is in Gladius. If he pops the +1 AP and the ignore cover, it just leaf blowers
yeah.
anything basically
Yeah.
in my army, except the tank commanders.
But if he has the repulsor,
So
he can't have too many of those little scoring pieces. It's just trying to kill you.
No, yeah, that's
Hmm.
that's why I didn't mind playing him. But since it's an open board, there's a chance he just goes first and pushes all his tanks forward, and then pushes them forward again and just kills everything I have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that didn't happen. I went first
Nice.
on Terraform,
Oh.
which means he couldn't really stop my terraforms.
Yeah.
Uh, the field ordnance battery, I think, in this game, and it became a trend for the rest of the tournament, just activated once and picked up 5 Marines. I think it might have been 5 Incursors or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did really well this event.
Wow. Yeah, how come
And
my field ruins batteries never do that? They kill like 2 or 3.
yeah, that's what it should kill, but sometimes you just
Yeah.
go crazy on the sustained. Uh, Also, he misdeployed. I was putting my Kasrkin in Tauroxes a lot this
Hmm.
event, and I usually put at least a squad because I like sending it in turn 1, just in the
Mm-hmm.
opponent's face, right? Uh, they don't get orders in Index. Now they do get orders, so they got buffed
Yeah.
quite a bit. But he misdeployed his Vindicator and Ballistas, and Kasrkin squad just went, domed the Vindicator for 7 mortals, and then shot the Melta and just killed it.
Wow.
And yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
it.
so let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit because this is a tech piece that I have tried a little bit and I haven't figured out how to use it, or maybe it's a difference of like terrain. What are you looking for with the Kasrkin in a Taurox? Because I know you and Nassim have also talked about how you like just full sending it on turn 1. What are you looking to
Yeah.
accomplish with that?
So usually I tell my opponent the Taurox can go 27 inch and the guys get out 3. And against less well-versed opponents in guard, they do get scared. So they deploy further back when maybe they should just not respect it as much. But uh anyways, when I have the Taurox with the Kasrkin, I'm looking for something that the mortals do well against, or like a 5-man that would be annoying to deal with. So, for example, a unit that I was really concerned about is the librarian with 5 infiltrators.
Mm-hmm.
They can shoot from outside 12, and they deep strike deny you 12.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the Kasrkin in there specifically as the main reason is if someone deploys that forward, and I go first, the Taurox just goes and picks up the squad.
Mm-hmm.
That was the idea, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Bridgehead, the caster can get a bit more consistent because they get reroll ones, even though they weren't getting orders there.
Yeah. So it's mostly just you're going to try and yeet it out of vehicle, hopefully do, most of the vehicle, or you're trying to
You
let
just
the
need
team
that one
out.
Melta to get through, and
Exactly.
you'll kill tanks.
Yeah. Or you're
And
looking to go kill like their little screening pieces then, like their little tech pieces.
yeah, tech pieces that I would be scared of.
Yeah.
So infiltrators are prime target because they really mess up Bridgehead's day
Yeah.
a lot.
And then I guess the reverse of that is what would cause you if you go first and you have the ability to go send this Kasrkin Taurox out to not do that? Is there anything that would prevent you from doing that?
Uh, Usually I just go by vibes. Actually, it's just like if it feels right to just send them in
Mhm.
and kill something, that's usually what I do. Then if I go second, they just act more like a Catachan squad where they stage, then the Taurox goes and they get out and kill something behind the wall that maybe I'd struggle to deal with otherwise.
Fair, yeah. I mean, that's something that I feel like the Tauroxes and the indirect kind of complement each other really well. Your opponent really
Yeah,
struggles
yeah,
to screen against both of them.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Uh, and yeah, I also like Kasrkin as a little anti-tank tech piece because they can just dump so many mortals, and tanks right now don't like mortals,
yeah,
like the Vindicators and Ballistas.
yeah. So anyway, so you end up going first. You just kill a Vindicator. How does the rest of the game go? Does what's his name, Kian, really have anything left to do in this game, or
We,
did you just
we
kill him?
actually ended up basically tabling each other.
Nice.
Like I didn't have much left, but he only had Calgar left in the middle. I couldn't kill him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I had like a couple guardsmen spread out, and I think a tank commander.
Mm-hmm.
I just won on points because I'm better at secondaries than his list,
Yeah.
and it's also terraform, and I got a terraform off, and he couldn't really hold primary that well against guard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fair.
so yeah, it's just a very violent game.
Very violent game, but it sounds
Yeah,
like it was a pretty controlled win, even if it was pretty violent.
it was. It was.
Yeah.
It's just his list is not very good at scoring. So if you just play primary denial against ultramarines, yeah, he
Yeah.
had to table me completely, not half table me. I think.
Fair. Yeah. Just got to be super violent. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
found that
yeah.
matchup not to be that bad, but all right. So I mean, sounds like a pretty controlled, very violent game one. What about our next game? We're ended up playing up against Ben.
Oh, I think that was Tyranid.
I can check.
He was a more casual player.
Okay,
I think turn two, I got a 14 on Bring It Down, turn two.
that's not supposed to happen.
No, he just he just felt that he was losing slowly and full send his monsters.
Yeah,
And then you know what happens when people send their army and then you drop silence, and
yeah,
shoot two tank commanders and things just die.
yeah,
And that's basically the game. He
yeah.
had a he had some Hormagan squads that were dying to my indirect, so he felt like he needs to go forward. And then it was also purge, and I have
Mm,
indirect,
yeah.
so he feels even more pressure to push forward. So that wasn't like I wouldn't say that was a very deep game because it was more like he shoves his monster forward, I drop my scions, I kill the monsters, and
Yeah.
that's it basically.
Did you
Yeah.
feel it was correct for him to have shoved at the time?
Hmm. Uh. Well, I feel like probably he should try and push forward because if I went second on Purge the Foe and if he's just slowly losing the game, right? Because I have indirect and I can decide when I get kill mores, and then I do get the bottom of turn like 16. It's probably correct. I just think the way he did it, he didn't screen or anything. I just got to land my scions and shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that was probably the easiest game, the whole event.
Yeah. Because I mean, with all of
Uh,
your indirect though, because I don't expect that you should be able to consistently kill like a 20-man unit in one turn.
no, probably not. Uh, but he just felt like he has to.
Fair, yeah.
Uh, Also, the 20 mans are pretty hard to hide
True.
outside this very specific box on your KTC. So I could just see them with one scion unit and just pick them up.
Yeah.
And he didn't screen me at all. So
Fair,
that's
yeah.
basically what happened, right?
Yeah.
So that was my most like non-game. He's more like just kill the things in front of me.
Yeah.
Uh, Even though I think Tyranids overall is a good matchup for guard because they don't kill you that well and you kill them
Yeah.
pretty well.
I generally found it like top end of a draw, right? Like a
They do
12-ish.
they can play it for they can play it to a draw.
Yeah.
Just being very careful, sending out only the things that need to go out.
Yeah. But it is
Yeah.
and sometimes like Shadow in the Warp just is like, "Oh, I guess I'm getting a 0 on primary this turn. My bad."
Yeah. Also, this game I just passed all my battle shocks. I
Yeah,
think
I mean, or
he
you do
didn't.
that, sometimes you're just that good.
He didn't battle shock anything relevant with his shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got 14 points on Bring It Down, and I think it was turn two, and it's just over.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a pretty good
Yeah.
draw. Well, it sounds like we got two pretty controlled wins overall. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next one. We're playing up against Caleb.
Oh, uh, that was
Oh.
Thousand Suns.
Oh no.
Sounds that matchup's just impossible for Thousand Suns. It
Yeah.
was, uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, he only had Magnus left turn three
Yeah.
because, yeah.
Yeah. I
Uh,
I remember I was prepping for a Teams event a little bit, and I asked someone, I was like, "Hey, should I tech for the Thousand Suns matchup at all, just to make him miserable?" And everybody was like, "Why? Like, you're gonna get a
Yeah, why?
15 at worst in this matchup." And I mean, just looking through his list, it looks like a stock standard Thousand
Yeah,
Suns
it was
list.
a very standard Thousand Suns
Yeah,
list. The problem is after all the nerfs that Thousand Suns got, they just don't have stuff, you know?
yeah,
They have like 3 units of rubrics, Magnus and like 2 beasts and some cultists. That's it.
yeah.
So for Bridgehead, who likes to activate and one-shot things in front of them, when you're screening me with like rubrics, it just doesn't work, right?
Yeah, because they're a crucial part
After
of the
you kill
battery.
after you kill all their trash, they just don't really play the game anymore. They
Yeah.
just it's just 15 Marines and they just die. That's it.
Yeah, so how do you prioritize what you're going after in Thousand Suns? Because I've generally found you can either kill Magnus or you can kill everything else.
I just ignore Magnus completely
Yeah?
because the second he comes out, he gets blasted by 2 tank commanders and then probably dies. Maybe not. If he doesn't die, the next turn you get to shoot him again. If he tries to shoot your tank commanders, you shoot him again. Eventually he'll die.
Yeah.
And other than that, you just go around killing all their little units. Like, for example, my Catachans, since I started, I have 2 squads of them and 2 squads of Kasrkin. I started the Catachans on foot, and it was corners deployment. So turn 1, they go 15, and they charge. And I just charged these cultists turn 1. And then when they fell back, I overwatched, and there was no cultist left. That's
Yeah.
basically it. So just removing like a cultist unit like that is a huge loss for T-Sense because they're really playing on the knife's edge. If they lose a couple units too many, it's just over.
Yeah.
And then I also have indirect, which I think my Phil Ordnance party spiked again this game and killed like 4 rubrics. Just just gone.
Yeah. And you just need to kill one
Yeah.
more, and after that, then like the aspiring sorcerer is like not, or infernal masters are not that exciting if they don't
Yeah,
have the
no.
rubrics attached.
Uh, he can protect himself somewhat by overwatching Sound Squads, but you can play around it by just dropping the Sound Squad where you can only see one model. They're like, cool, Overwatch with the Infernal Master. You'll kill some Sounds, and then
Yeah.
the Sounds just one-shot the unit and just trade it up considerably.
Yeah. I always tell
Yeah.
people that whenever they're looking to Overwatch Scions, it's like, I just want you to know you can Overwatch, but your first 6 models that you kill are lasguns.
Yeah.
And then
And
they're like,
then
oh,
maybe they kill a Melta, maybe they kill a Med Pack. By the end of it, you're still like activating a full Scion unit, basically.
yeah.
Just like 90% damage instead of
How
100.
how much do you do? How much do you tell people is like that as a, I'm trying to help you, versus how much do you tell people that I'm gonna lose like lasguns in order to get them to like not Overwatch? Because there's definitely been some times where I've been like, just so you know, the first 6 are lasguns, while I'm thinking, please, I really want those lasguns alive so I can I can shoot your cultists.
I, I am usually very straight with my opponent. Like
Mm,
I tell him everything I could do when I could do it. Yeah, and most of the time an Overwatch when Scions are 4-up save. Oh, this game actually came up. I land my Scions, I give them take cover. They Overwatch, they kill some lasguns, and then I land Guns Ghosts next to them. So I swap to take aim in first rank, second rank.
mm-hmm.
And you can do that a lot where I found I don't even really need the no Overwatch enhancement because you either play around it or uh, it just isn't that effective against Scions.
Yeah,
You need to get like a full Rubric squad activating into
yeah.
a Scion squad to pick up everything.
I'm just curious about the
Yeah,
timing, because I know when you set up, but is it immediately after setting up? Or is it, because I thought it was at the end of the phase
really. I
that
might
it
play that
would
wrong
be.
then.
I'm just trying to find it. Just in order. Codex command. Yeah, officer models, at least in the Codex,
Mm-hmm.
in your command phase or at the end of a phase in which they disembarked or were set up. So I'm
Oh,
not sure if that
okay.
changed from Index or
It might have changed. I might have been playing that role.
yeah.
So, but I don't think it made a huge impact in my game because that's
Yeah.
the one scenario where it could matter.
Yeah, exactly. It's like getting
Yeah,
Overwatches, I think, is the only time where the difference matters.
and he overwatched with just Infernal Sorcerer outside of an objective, and I think he rolled like 5 on the shots.
Yeah. So
And it's like
maybe it saved you an extra body.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then still one shot to Rubik's Squad with just the
Yeah.
body.
Even if he killed that extra body, they were still gonna die.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just
No,
trying
but that's
not
good
to
to know.
spread
I didn't
misinformation.
know that actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw. I made a video about Morty and Glory, and I assumed that because he's been talking about the take cover stuff with the
Mhm.
LVO ruling, and I assumed that his chat had once again failed to convince him of the correct ruling, but he actually, if I had watched like an additional like 5 minutes, he actually was
Mhm.
convinced of the correct ruling, and so now I feel really bad. So as soon as I'm done with
Yeah.
this, I'm gonna have to go record an apology video.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Guard does have some tricky like corner rules, and
yes,
sometimes,
yeah.
yeah.
I feel like a lot of them got cleaned up though. I remember about a year ago or like 6 months ago in like June or October,
Hmm.
whenever it was, when they were like, okay, now the tank commander has squadron, and now, um, this rule doesn't
Yeah.
require this keyword or whatever. I think that made a lot of the weird corner
Yeah.
cases
Yeah.
cleaned up, and then they gave us recon element, and suddenly all those weird corner cases are back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it
And
platoon?
they added platoon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think
Just
that ever.
one more keyword for
I
no
don't. Did
not much region.
Platoon do anything in the index?
So I know for Siege Regiment you have the rapid fire strat that
Yeah,
only applies to platoon units.
but I think in the
They could have said
index,
like battle line instead of platoon.
yeah, because I think Scions are also platoon.
I sounds platoon.
I
I
don't
have no
know.
idea.
Let's double check.
I just think it's one more keyword.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, okay. Scions are not platoon, so
right.
maybe it's their weird
So
way is like everything that's not Scions.
it's just Catachans, Cadians, and Krieg, I guess.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think
It
command squads are also platoon. But anyway, we're getting a
yeah,
little bit
command squads are
sidetracked.
platoon. Command
Yeah.
squads are platoon.
So anyway, we've gotten 3 pretty good wins. It sounds like
Yeah.
I mean, you played a very stock standard Ultramarines list with a repulsor tech. Then there was the invasion fleet, which looked pretty normal. I think the Gaunt bricks were probably the most unusual thing there. And then we had
Yeah.
the very standard Thousand Suns. That's good matchup. Generally pretty good matchup, but it sounds like it was a weaker player. And then one of the easiest matchups we have in the entire game.
I think it's the easiest.
Yeah, Thousand Suns
I
is super
celebrated
easy.
when I got T-Suns round 3. I was just
You're
like,
just like,
nice.
yes,
A very
nice.
chill game to
Yeah,
end the game with, end the day with.
yeah,
Yeah. And then I can go home.
yeah. Go home a
Not
little bit
think too
early.
much.
Fair enough. But
Yeah.
anyway, the next day is when we're starting to play up against the other 3-0, 4-0 players, and you end up playing up against Aiden. How'd this one go?
So Aiden's a really good player. He's in Mind Goblins, which is one of the UK teams,
Hmm.
like pretty big UK teams. Uh, the day before, I was looking at the lists on top. I was just like, "Ah, please, I don't want to play this. I think it's bad for Bridgehead because he has the unit of infiltrators that you can't shoot outside of 12
Mm-hmm.
and denies you 12. And it's also on Burden of Trust,
Oh,
which means it's pretty hard for me to hold primary.
wait,
So
you play both
yeah,
Terraform and Burden of Trust? Like, what is this mission pack?
and Purge.
And per.
At least we got them to remove supply drop.
Oh my
They used to have
god.
supply drop.
That's
Supply drop
that's a
was really
crazy
bad.
mission pack. Okay. So anyway,
So yeah, I think everyone hates Burden because going second is just so important in Burden. Otherwise, you're just scoring zeros the
yeah.
entire game. So Aiden was playing Bloodless Angels. Like the Innes Wilson list,
Yeah,
except
basically.
he had some more tanks
Yeah.
and thank God less infiltrators
Yeah.
and no desolators because they are a bit problematic for Bridgehead to deal with.
Yeah.
So this was it. This was when my Kasrkin in Taurox came into its own by killing like 5 scouts. But it did stop him from infiltrating his infiltrators up. So they sat back instead of going on a ruin where they could just control the midboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so because he was scared of my Kasrkin, uh, I think that was his mistake
Do you
after
think
we
he's
talked.
supposed
Because
to put it out and just risk going second?
so on UKTC, well, he could put the scout to move block the Taurox
Mm.
and infiltrate the infiltrators somewhere. Like there's this little corner ruin that they are really safe, and then that side of the map is just his. I can't really do much about it because he'll keep me screened, and that will give him some primary. So this game I ended up going second, which is a saving grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I rolled for Attacker Defender, and I infiltrated Guns Ghosts on that ruin that I was telling you about. That I'm
Mm-hmm.
scared that he'll infiltrate there. And since he went first on Burden, now the pressure is all on him to make things happen. Uh, so he sent out his scouts, his incursors to get some turn one charges, but he drew Assassinate, which
Mm.
made one of his units, instead of completing like the move block all around my deployment zone, he made them go after Guns Ghosts, which meant I could leave my deployment zone. So I didn't have to skip like 2 turns, just stuck there.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, after that it was a very, very standard like trading game. Like he sends out some Marines, I kill the Marines, I send out a tank, he brings in like a Vindicator from reserves and the Hammer Strike from reserves and shoots my tank. The tank man is shot on death and did like 1 damage
It
to a
happens.
Hammer Strike. Yeah. I think my tank commander that game didn't even kill 5 Marines.
Ooh.
Like, yeah. The field Ordnance battery, though,
Yeah, I'll
that
hot
thing,
topic.
that thing, oh my god. It killed 5 JPI, turn one, just one shot them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like looking at the list that Aiden was playing here, where he's got a lot of Marine MSU, right? He's got, one Assault Intercessors, 2 units of Intercessors, 2 units of 5 JPI, an Incursor squad,
Yeah.
Infiltrator squad, a Reaver squad, 2 Scout squads, a Steering Guard squad, right? I feel like this is the ideal game to have a
Bridgehead
Field Ordnance
counter.
battery. Yeah.
It is 100. Oh, yeah, field
Also
Ordnance
that,
battery
yeah,
is
it's
perfect here.
also really good against Bridgehead. But I'm kind of curious then, like looking at it, because this feels like a difficult matchup. I've always found that Bridgehead
It
tends to
is. This
struggle
was
against
my
MSU.
hardest
Yeah.
hardest game the entire event. So it's really hard for you to hold primary against this kind of list because if you try to hold it with Taurox, he puts like 2 Marines and it's his or 3. If you try to hold it with 10 Kasrkin, he'll charge you with JPI, and in Blood Angels, those JPI are nasty. They go to winning on 2s.
Yeah.
It's a lot of attacks. So they probably killed the Kasrkin or the Catachans, whatever, sitting there. And then on Burden, it's even harder because you're not scoring for your home. So I think it's what I was saying. What went wrong for him was not completing the move block. So I actually got to break out of my deployment zone and start killing more Marines, like 1 more squad, 2 more squads than I should. And that attrition started to set in, and eventually he ran out of units a bit too early, I think. So by turn 4, he was running out of steam,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't really get to play a real turn 5, right?
Yeah.
He also went for a play, so he put 5 JPI on the objective to contest a Taurox,
Mm-hmm.
and brought in a Vindicator from reserves and a Hammer Strike to shoot. He didn't shoot the tank man. He shot a Sound Squad. So the Bombast squad started on the table, and it was the only thing I had that could get to some JPI on an objective. So I just 6-inch them and killed the JPI. And then he brought uh, a Vindicator, a Hammer Strike, and shot a Predator from like downrange into a Sound Squad to just pick it up. And then inside the Taurox, I had a squad of Kasrkin who came out and then went melt a mine grenade and shot the melt at the Vindicator and just picked it up and then tagged the Hammer Strike while the tank commander moved up behind it. So after that play, he lost, I think, too many resources to
Mm-hmm.
just random, like 10-man guardsmen's, like 10 Kasrkin just picked up a lot of points
Yeah.
and tied up something they don't mind tying up, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, and then so a lot of small things snowballed into him losing more units than he
yeah.
should. And then I went second on Burden, so I had bottom of game scoring. So
Yeah.
I just get to 12, right?
So an interesting question then, because it sounds like on the face of it, right? Trading the Scion unit for 5 JPIs, like most people look at that as like that sounds like a bad trade. What is it that you're looking for to trade down with some of these Scion units that makes these trade downs okay?
Right. So uh, instead of I think looking at it in points is too simplistic
Mm-hmm.
because sure, it's 200 points for 90 points. I'm just looking of ways of getting that game going, just kicking off the the trading wars and forcing him to commit resources early so I can just pick him off for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I did lose the Scion unit, but in exchange I got a Vindicator and some more Marines and a Hammer Strike, basically, to commit on that side of the board.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on the other side of the board, my entire army pushed out. And because he couldn't respond to, because he had to drop those on one side of the board, on the other side, my tank commander got to push into his deployment zone by like turn 3 and just start shelling his safe objective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's about is the word tempo. I think just
Mm-hmm.
kicking off the game. Just I'm trading down, sure, but I'm stripping a resource and I'm forcing you to send things to a place that maybe you don't want them to go to trade for something that at that point I was okay losing.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
often are you
because
finding yourself like dropping Scions or Aquilons or anything else in reserve into weird places where like they're out of the way, but if your opponent goes to deal with them, like it takes them an
oh yeah,
extra turn to then come back.
all the time,
Yeah,
all the time. Just if if I can kill something and then drag other things out of position to deal with that silent squad, I'm doing it almost always,
yeah,
usually. Because if something's out of position, it's basically the same as being dead, right? Because it's not interacting with the rest of the game, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I usually am very uh I, I send my scions to die horrible deaths very often. Yeah.
That's okay. That's what Paul had to do as well. I get it. Uh, Paul Atreides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Send his
Yeah, you gotta send people to do things.
Fremen. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Send him to do things that maybe he doesn't want to do himself.
yeah. I think it's really interesting too, because what what does an opponent do against that? Because I don't think once we've dropped our Aquilons to do that, I feel like it's already lost from that position. So, is there anything that people can do to just prevent it from happening? Because sometimes the answer is like you don't have enough things to screen, right? Like
Yeah,
obviously this
this is
NSU
true.
army does, but um what about like a Knight's army or something like a Custodes army that just doesn't have the unit count to actually fully screen? Is there a way
Uh,
that they can play
I,
around it?
I don't think there is. I think
Fair?
you just I was playing knights the other day. And I killed 8 war dogs turn 2 just with mortals and shooting scions,
Mhm.
split fire. A Rogaldorn killed a knight in Overwatch. Just just popped it. So those kinds of armies, they don't really have much, I'd say, like agency against Bridgehead, because if you're screening with your expensive units, those are the units that are getting shot by scions, right? So
Yeah,
uh, that's a win for the Bridgehead player.
yeah,
But for armies that have a lot of shaft to just throw forward and screen, there's definitely play against
yeah.
Bridgehead and things they can do.
Now,
Yeah,
I've got a bit of a small proposal for you because something that I've started noticing in my games is if you can't screen an area, don't be there. One of the things that I think a lot of people are used to seeing with signs from the index before is that signs in the index or even in like combined arms, you can rapid ingress them.
you
And
can.
yeah, in Bridgehead, you don't really you can, but you don't really want to because they lose the +1 to wound. And so something I've started
Yeah,
seeing some players do is be like, well, I can't screen this area, so I'm just not going to be there, so that if you
yeah.
drop
Just
behind this
don't
wall,
lose
yeah,
resources. Just yeah, just
yeah,
just sit behind the wall and wait for me to drop somewhere
yeah, or
that's
sometimes
not
you
there,
sit,
and then you can move on.
yeah, sometimes you sit in
Yeah,
front of the wall and just be like, okay, well, the Rogel Doran can shoot me, but your scions are going to be 25 inches away, so cool,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
all right, well, cool
Uh,
beans. Well, with that,
uh,
sorry, sounds like you got something you wanted to say.
Also, uh, you you can wait out the bridgehead player. Just play a very neutral game where the only thing you're putting out is like units you don't really care about. And then if the bridgehead player overcommits, you have a go turn where you just pick up all his scions,
Yeah,
and
I found it.
that's a way to deal with bridgehead as well.
Have you found it hard for other people to wait you out? Because I generally feel with Bridgehead is like if they're not going to do anything, I'm going to slowly drop signs next to Ursula Creed, put them in strat
Yeah, and
reserve, and then I can
cycle
wait
them.
till turn 5. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's an advantage that guard does have with other deep strike armies, is that we our deep striking component of science doesn't really need doesn't need to be playing the game to play the game, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
You just keep cycling them and then you play the game with your trash instead. And the scions are just keeping the threat and keeping your opponent back without ever actually committing.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Well, fair enough. We got one more game here going up against Jordan. You said game 4 is your favorite game, but game 5 was the one you needed to win.
Yeah, it was.
Mm.
But game 4 was the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
This one, Vanguard Marines is what we were just talking about. They don't have
Yeah,
stuff to screen me, right? So he had a weird list as well.
there's a lot of
Uh,
tanks in this list for Vanguard.
yeah, they were actually kind of annoying to deal with because they're -1 to hit. Like I put 2 tank commanders into a ballistas and it just lived.
Yeah, that happens.
It's a massive problem.
Yeah.
I'd rather it had died. Um, yeah, he had a Sternguard squad that also doesn't really line up into Scions, I guess, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just he had combi weapons in it. And he'll kill some Scions. He won't really wipe the full brick.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then he has Robute and Calgar, which are a lot of points
Mm-hmm.
just sitting there. And this one of the games where he was very scared of the Kasrkin just going up in a Taurox and just popping Robute turn 1
Okay, sure,
because they
yeah.
can go
It could happen,
Mastermind,
yeah.
Grenade. Yeah, it could happen. And then he was like, he deployed it very far back, so he didn't really get to join the game until like turn 3.
Mm.
Also, the field ordnance battery just made a mess of those turn guards, even through the -1 to hit. He's
Ooh.
hitting on 5s. He killed like 3 on the first activation.
I'm just saying, like, every time I listen to you talk about your games, like, yeah, I did like 30 mortals to this knight player. Oh yeah, killing a MSU unit of Marines every turn like Philorus Matter. It's like I gotta figure out where you're buying your dice, man. Like, you got any sponsorships you
uh,
need to plug?
no, it's my team's dice, Sigil dice. They roll hot.
Nice.
Uh, yeah. So it was basically he was losing the attrition match. He went first, so also every time I deny him 5 on Scorched, it's huge, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah. So yeah, he had the turn where he tried to full send all his tanks, and then I dropped signs and I killed them all. That's it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Just drop signs and kill things. That's it.
I mean, it sounds like you just got like you said, you do need some luck to win a GT, but it sounds like you hit
I
almost
got
all of your
I
good
got
matchups.
really lucky on my pairs.
Yeah.
So just round 4 was a hard game. The rest was very
Yeah.
like
Very
yeah,
straightforward.
pretty easy. Yeah,
Well,
because they can't really stop Bridgehead those matchups, right?
yeah. I mean, fair enough. Sometimes that is just what happens, but with that in mind, let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about team stuff because I know you've been spending some time working. This is going to be your first year going to WTC and you're playing with Team Portugal. How's that experience been?
So I signed up for it this year because I discovered that they exist. I didn't know Portugal had a team before. I didn't even know people played Warhammer in Portugal before,
Mm-hmm.
like this year's WTC, and I saw them play. So yeah, the main thing has been that WTC terrain is very different from UKTC terrain. Like that's changed how you play the game a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so they have to select the players, they have like an internal league where you just the top 8 get chosen. And yeah, just
Yeah.
played in that. And now they've selected the 8 and I I got on it.
Nice.
That's basically it. Yeah. It's been nice to play some scrims against like other countries like Iceland and Romania and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically it.
I know you said that it doesn't feel like there's like a top tier of teams where like your top 8, like your Poland, USA, England, France, Sweden,
Yeah, yeah. Germany.
Germany, Spain. I think also had a really good year this last year.
Spain's really good, yeah.
Yeah, where
Uh,
they play so much where I've heard them describe it as 40K is no longer fun at that point. It's
oh,
become a
yeah.
job. But it sounds like you guys like you're taking it seriously, but it's not necessarily at that level of just we're grinding
No,
the game.
people don't play as much inside WTC Portugal as they do inside my own, like my UK team, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot less like pressure and stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Because I don't think they're looking for top tier competition, right? It's more like a thing that we do as a country, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Uh, but we still get some scrims and we get games inside the team and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not very hardcore.
Sure.
Definitely not a Team France or a Team USA.
Yeah. So I guess one of the interesting things then is playing on WTC versus UKTC. What do you find the differences are in the way that you're building lists for WTC versus UKTC?
So what I've found so far is that UKTC has all the maps have really long lanes, and it's much easier to move a Dorn around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting a Dorn in every UKTC list I build, just because he can sit there and pick those long ass angles. But for WTC, some maps you actually can't even like you actually struggle to move a Dorn out of your deployment zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to be shoving it, like just poking its nose out of places that it can't fit to shoot. So I've been favoring Hammer a lot for
Interesting. Okay.
WTC because you can just your doors don't care about the terrain. They can
Yeah.
just go 16 and shoot through a wall, and that's it.
Yeah.
Uh,
See, that's interesting
yeah, I
because
definitely find it a lot more.
I mean, I'm sure you looked at the results of Pirate Cup, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah,
anybody who's not aware, there is a big team, not a big teams event, but a very elite teams event where a lot of the like very strong WTC countries are sending a lot of their prospective players, people who are trying to get onto the, this year's WTC and just try out a lot of players. And every single team there brought a Bridgehead list, and I think the most interesting one was Ben Jurek, who brought two Dorns, and I think he was one of the lower placing guard players at the event. So I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on that with Bridgehead because they could have brought Hammer and nobody chose to.
yeah. Well, I think there's two factors there, right?
Hmm.
So with Bridgehead, only the Dorn part would care about the terrain, and there are some WTC maps where you can move Dorns about
Hmm.
like normally, like you're not getting stuck in places. So if your team puts you as a defender and gives you map choice, and you just go for a map where, let's say, your two Dorns can move around, then it's not a problem.
Hmm.
Uh, Also, I feel like uh, Bridgehead is definitely the strongest detachment, so I feel like that's why they resort like went to it, and also
Fair,
there
yeah.
wasn't a lot of time to experiment with the new stuff. But mm, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I mean, I thought it was very
If
funny.
you get map choice, it's fine. The Dorn.
Yeah.
It's just if you want to build a table agnostic list, then there are some. I think there are some WTC tables where you just can't move a Dorn
Yeah.
around.
I thought it was pretty funny. I don't know if you watched the 40K Fireside stuff, but David Gaylord made a claim that if you played Bridgehead at Pyro Cup, you were a bad guard player.
that's that's very extreme. Uh, uh, I think yeah, I would have liked to see some more like experimentation because the
Yeah.
Codex has some cool detachments, right? Like Hammer combined still really good. Siege and Recon maybe not.
No
Mechanized
mechanized?
has some
Yeah, I
cool
love
stuff.
mechanized.
Mechanized has some really cool stuff.
Yeah. Are you
I
still?
did find it.
Go ahead.
Hmm?
Go ahead.
I did find Mechanized a bit lacking in damage.
A
Just
little bit.
you just get the one reroll strat, and that's basically your damage, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of curious
What
then.
were you gonna ask?
I was gonna say like, obviously, Bridgehead is going to have something done to it soon, right? Like it can't continue to play at his current power level. What
Yeah.
what are you really looking at? What are you having fun with? If you could just play whichever one you wanted, like what detachment would you be looking to play in like 3 months with
Oh,
Bridgehead?
Bridgehead, because I love science.
Oh, okay. So
But that's
yeah,
definitely getting that's
yeah.
definitely getting nerfed. So probably Hammer of the Emperor.
Hammer comes
Because
next for you.
I just love auto advancing 6-inch Tauroxes.
It is pretty fun.
That's mad. With Kasrkin inside.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's that's something I really like.
Makes a lot of sense. And then after that, what are your plans with Team Sigil? Because I know you've got that team. I mean, just looking at the Dark Sphere event, I think your top three, you, Jack, Vincent, got the top three spots, and then Ranchin, Charles, Samuel, Andrew. Like, first off, okay, this is a lot of Team Sigil players. That's more than I
Yeah.
realized, but
I didn't pair into a single one either.
yeah,
So
but there's a lot of you guys, and it sounds like you guys have other team events coming up.
so we usually every 3 months there's this event called ITT
Hmm.
in the UK, which is a big team event. The last one I think was the biggest team event in the world, like 150 teams.
That's a lot of
Uh,
teams.
we
It's eight
got
man teams, right?
5-man team,
5 man
5-man.
teams.
They
Okay.
are thinking about making some 8-man teams. I heard.
Hmm.
We got 10th and 11th
Wow.
in the last event. So it was just a team. Me and Ranchin from Team China started here in London,
Hmm.
and we just recruited like London players
Yeah.
to play. play with us, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, since we went for the more competitive London players, then it also means that in a London event, we'd have most of the top placings because yeah,
Yeah.
that's the players we went for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
And
so who's on your team for this upcoming ITT?
so we have 2 or 3 teams.
Hmm.
In our team one, it's Jack Payne, who's a Marine player, Ranchin, who we started a team together, and he's in Team China. Uh, Charles Holland, who's a Tyranids player, and my guy who wasn't at this GT, but
Hmm.
he plays pretty good as well. And we're starting a third team this time with more like newer players to competitive or less
Yeah. More
well-seasoned
prospect
players,
players.
more prospects, yeah,
Yeah.
and start doing some scrims inside our team to see if we can practice them up
Yeah.
to come to ITT and get a good result along with the other
Yeah.
Sigil teams, right?
What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on singles versus teams? Do you have like more fun playing one way or another, or is it different time, different place?
I much prefer playing teams.
Hmm.
It's not even close, personally. Uh, I just think the fun of like playing with your friends and strategizing like pairings here, pairings there, and also very important when you lose, you don't get all bummed out. You you're still fighting for that 1 point, even if you're losing.
Yeah,
You're gonna
absolutely.
try and get that 1 point because it does matter. It matters a lot. Uh, yeah, I just think teams is the best way to play for TK.
Yeah.
But singles events are still fun, and they're part of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the best things you can do to be a better teams player is be a really good singles player. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's true.
yeah,
But I would also say that a very good singles player is not necessarily a good
that's
teams player
true.
because someone who wins a lot in singles sometimes doesn't know how to lose.
True. Yeah,
Knowing how to lose is. I was like that when I started, actually. All my games were either 20 O's or getting 20 O'd.
yeah,
Like I had no close games because I was always full send, like that
yeah.
singles mentality, playing very aggressive.
I've always thought it
Eventually, I
was,
learned to like lose small
yeah.
somewhat.
I've
I still
always
have
found
that
myself
problem.
a fairly natural teams player simply because, like, whenever there are two lines and one of them I can go for like the 20 or one of them is like, this will be an 11, right? I'll
Hmm.
very naturally tend towards just playing towards the 11, right? It's just like, why am I
I always
taking on
play
any
again for
risk?
the 20. I always go for
Yeah.
the 20, man.
Yeah,
Always.
hell yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Gustavo, we're pulling up on the hour, so one of my favorite questions to always ask. We'll start talking about the Codex a little bit. Firstly, what's a unit that people are looking at in the Codex that you think is really overrated?
Overrated.
Hmm.
Hmm. I, I don't think there's like. I think there's so much good stuff in there. It's hard to have an overrated
Fair.
unit. Maybe Guns Ghosts.
Okay.
Like a lot of lists could just work fine without Guns Ghosts and just 110 points or more other stuff.
Hmm.
I still like to take them as a crutch. Just like, oh, it goes up. Shit, I need to do an action.
Well,
I don't know if I
yeah.
could swear.
No, you're good.
uh, like crap, I need to do an action. Okay, Guns Ghosts, go fix that.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's down to me making mistakes. Whereas if I had 110 points of other stuff, I could manage that better.
Hmm.
But it's nice to have as a fallback when you just need to like
Yeah.
do an action somewhere
So it sounds
or
like
get an order somewhere.
it's good. It makes the game easier, but like good players shouldn't need it.
Uh, I, I think they also have a role as like lone ops and stuff, but
Yeah,
I'm finding in most of my lists, I'm like guns ghosts are cuttable, but I like having them as a fallback for when I make mistakes
that makes
positioning and I need a unit somewhere.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I want to flip it a little bit. What are two units that you think are really underrated that people aren't really looking at and need to be starting to experiment more with?
Uh, well, for me, it's Kasrkin because I want them in every list. Like I make a hammer list, I have Kasrkin. I make a mechanized list, I have Kasrkin
Hmm.
combined. any detachment. I always have 20 to 30 Kasrkin just because, yeah, I just learned how to
Yeah.
play guard with them, and I feel like they just do things.
It feels like coming home, honestly. Like when I started putting
It
Kasrkin
does,
back in
yeah.
list, because they were out of my list for a little while, and then now that
Yeah,
they're
not
back, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, they do the thing.
not many people were playing them
Mhm.
for a while after they lost the reinforcements,
Mhm.
like the endless reinforcements, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Another underrated unit. Underrated. Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't say the Taurox because it's
I think
completely.
everybody knows that
Everyone knows it's
is
great.
cracked. Yeah.
Uh, Maybe Rattlings actually.
Okay. What's the use case for
They're
rattlings?
cute for move blocking,
Yeah.
and they get back in the truck with +1 to wound. That's it.
There you go. I mean, strength 5
Just
+1 to wound is not bad.
sometimes, yeah, and just having like a 60-point unit that infiltrates sometimes is very useful.
Yeah.
Like if I'm cutting guns ghosts, I'm considering rattling sometimes because I just want to block parts of the board from troublesome infiltrates,
Yeah.
especially with Emperor's Children coming out, and they have a lot of infiltrates.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, Gustavo, we're coming up on the hour here. We're actually a little bit past it. So before I let you go, you have any closing thoughts about guard, about teams, anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's all. I feel like Guard's in a really good place, and we're lucky we didn't get like the B team for the Codex. That would have been pretty sad. We got a great Codex, so now all that's left is to experiment
Yeah.
and make some nice lists.
Yeah, I'm looking
That's
forward to
it.
experimenting a little bit more with when Bridgehead gets nerfed and the design space opens up a little bit.
I
So,
hope engineers don't get nerfed with Bridgehead,
yeah.
because
Oh, how
man, they
good do you
are
think
crazy.
you think they're just like okay, so let's just assume like after Bridgehead, how many engineers should you have in just a generic guard list? You can put it in like
I'm
any
putting 30 in every list I
every
make.
list. Wow.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's messed up to use the remote mine. It's just crazy.
Yeah, well,
Like
when yours go off as consistently as yours do.
mine always go off. I haven't had a game where they don't go
I
off.
swear,
It's
I
crazy.
swear, I'm rolling 5 ups every single time I play that unit, but it is what it
Like
is.
no other unit in the game goes like, oh, take 6 mortals. Just why? Because I exist within 12 of you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's
it.
it's silly Doombolt, no line of sight Doombolt.
It's no other side Doombolt. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And the engineers themselves are pretty solid because they have a 4-up save. So they just sometimes they just don't die. Like people are putting bolters into them, like frag profiles, and you're left with like 6 alive, and they just go and do an action. They're just
yeah,
annoying.
they're really annoying. Well,
Yeah.
fair enough. Well, with that, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for everybody
Thank
who's
you.
been watching. My name has been Joshua Tree Howard. This has been Gustavo of many names coming through. Thank you so much, Gustavo, for coming on to this episode of
Thank
Tactical
you
Debrief. We'll
for
see you guys
having
all
me.
next time. Bye bye.